Hello and welcome back to Humble Conversations. It's been a while. Can't lie to you, it's been almost a year. But that's not the important part. The important part is that we're back. And it's a new year. It's a new leaf. It's new. The content is going to be good. It's going to be pumping. I don't know what that means, but it's going to be good. All the other content that I have besides this video isn't just going to be me talking. It's going to be people that are relevant and credible, like to what I'm going to be asking them about. And so this one, if you don't want to just hear me talking, you can just come to the next one in like 2 weeks. Today, I'm talking about something that I don't want to talk about or I didn't want to talk about, but it's something that I think more people should be talking about. And my whole premise of this podcast is to bring things to conversation. It's to have these types of conversation. If I myself am avoiding this conversation because I don't want to have it, what kind of podcast would that be? That's not. And honestly, I was raised in a family where everything is brought up in conversation. Like my family, our bonding activity is just debates. Like it's just talking about everything. And so everything is and should be a conversation. And no conversation, no questions should be off limits. No topics should be avoided because no one person was the only person that's ever felt or thought something. And no one's ever had an original thought. So it should be a conversation. But the reason that this topic, depression, I want to talk about depression. The reason that this topic specifically is so hard to talk about is because it's not really easy to understand what it is or where it comes from. I'm obviously going to be talking about my perspective with it and my experience with it. Everybody's is different, but for me and what I'm going to be like talking about, because nobody talks about this type of depression enough, is the type of depression that comes out of nowhere and you don't know what it is and you don't know why it's there, because nothing should be causing it. There should be nothing that's making you not happy. But for some reason, no matter how many good things are happening in your life, you can't find yourself being happy. So that's the kind of depression I'm talking about. When people start noticing you're depressed and they ask you, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Like something's been off. And then they start asking all these questions and then you're like, I actually don't know. I don't know what's making me feel like this. There's no reason I should be feeling like this, but I can't stop. For me, my history of depression or whatever started in, I would say, early middle school. That's so young. Nobody should even know what depression is at that age. What do you mean we're in 6th grade and we're talking about cutting our wrists? I'm sorry. First of all, I should have put a trigger warning. I'm so sorry. These are not easy things to hear about or to talk about, and it's very triggering. But anyway, so again, what do you mean we're in 6th grade and we're talking about like this stuff? The Blue Whale Challenge? I was what, like 12? There's no reason that I should even know what that is. There's no it was so sad. And so being exposed to it from so young, it changes your view on everything because you miss the part of your life that you're supposed to enjoy and not go play on a playground and play freaking grounders or tag. What do you mean we're killing ourselves? It was so sad. All of my friends at that age, that's where I got it from. Wait, let me not say that, but that's where I was exposed to it. I was exposed to it from all of my best friends. I don't know how this happened, but it wasn't even just one of my best friends in middle school. It was like we were a group, we just became a group of people that didn't want to be alive anymore in middle school and beginning of high school. And it was just so stupid. I don't know. It was so sad. It's not funny. I should not be laughing. It's really not funny at all. Being exposed to depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff from so young, it genuinely changes your brain. It makes your brain think in a different way. And not even just when you're so young, because even when you're say out of depression and you're not depressed anymore and now you're starting to feel happy again, years later, even maybe a decade later, it's still always a thought in your head because it's always been there since you're so young. It's engraved in your brain. It changes how you view the rest of your life. It was so hard for me to plan the rest of my life. To plan, what do you mean I have to think about where I'm going to go to college and what I'm going to study and what's my career going to be? in 20 years, and I didn't even expect to make it past 14. Like, that was my biggest struggle, because I had to plan, thinking about my hobbies, thinking about what I love to do when I didn't even want to be alive. And each birthday after you've been, depressed or suicidal, it's so weird, because you hit an age that you never thought you'd be at. The depression I had specifically, again, it looks completely different for other people. So just my experience doesn't equate every depressed person ever. But for me, I was super high functioning. I still did everything I was supposed to do. I was very active. I was an active kid. And so nobody could really tell, especially because I wasn't someone that liked talking about their feelings. I hated that. I never did it. And so nobody could really tell that I was suffering. And that to me was so sad, because I so desperately wanted people to see, to be able to tell and like look through me and be like, oh, I know you're struggling, but it's going to be okay. I hated when they asked me. Sometimes they could see, because you can't hide it all the time, especially not to your family. They would ask questions like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? And I hated when they asked that. And I'd respond like, yes, I'm fine. And I'd like scream at them for just asking if I was okay. It was so sad. But I hated it, because it's so frustrating to explain to people why you're not okay when nothing wrong has happened. Like, there's nothing wrong. There's literally nothing wrong. So I don't know why I always felt like there was something wrong. And it pissed me off. And so anytime anyone would try and show that they cared, that would also piss me off. But then also when they didn't show that they cared and they couldn't see that I was depressed, that also pissed me off. I was a victim of my own brain. Anything that anybody did or could do pissed me off, and it made it worse. And so it was very victim. It was very trying to create my own problems just to have problems, which is very not healthy. And it brought me so many problems in the future. I've always making something wrong happen. Starting arguments just because I felt like it was too good to be true for nothing bad to happen. You know what I'm saying? It was a very bad cycle, and it brought me a lot of problems. But we're getting out of that. So I highly encourage people to look within themselves and to be very self-aware and think about why you're doing what you're doing. Why am I getting upset at these things? Why am I getting upset at people for asking me how I am and for caring? So anyway, depression makes you evil, guys. My parents had a lot of patience, because I was very rude. I made the mood down for everybody. It was just so sad. I hated the person that I became out of nowhere. I created my own problems, and so I hated that. But anyway, so I wanted more attention and for people to see that I was struggling, because I hated going through, my day smiling, laughing, and as soon as the door closed, my face would go numb. It's like a switch that came off as soon as the door closed. And it was so sad that just nobody could tell. And so this is where I'm kind of confessing right now, because this isn't something I would ever admit, but it's the reality. And so it's supposed to be, yeah, it's definitely not my proudest moment, but I was so desperate for attention, I would do anything. So I was growing up in the age where social media was just becoming a thing, basically. People would post everything. People would start posting, when Instagram had the little TV icon, that's when I got Instagram. I got Instagram and social media on my first phone when I was 8, or I got social media when I was 11, 12. It was so bad. Guys, never give your kids social media, because yeah. And so it started off innocent, right? Instagram is just, people were posting pictures of their salads, of a nice tree, of a leaf they saw outside. People were posting everything. And so by posting everything, they were posting everything. That's when this is a trigger warning. So I don't know, I guess I don't have to explain a trigger warning, but just, this is a very graphic story, I think. So people were posting everything, and so some of my friends, and I guess some of the people that I followed, they would post pictures of them cutting themselves, and of them like their wrists already being cut, and they would post it, and then all the comments, they'd have like 100 comments being like, oh, we're here for you, like stay strong, you got this, what's wrong, like they were asking, so people cared, right? And I saw that these people cared, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want that too. It's so the first time I ever cut myself was to post it on social media just so I can get attention. I didn't post it on Instagram. I posted it on my Snapchat, like private story or whatever, or it was my main story, but I just hid a bunch of people from looking at it. I don't know. And then I just felt stupid, and then I deleted it. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I posted this? Like, that's so stupid. Because as much as I wanted attention, I didn't want people to know. It would come in things like my desperate want for attention would come in ways of like, if I'm driving, I'd want to crash my car to just so people could tell that like I almost died, and then people could see like how serious it was, because as high functioning as I was still so sad and so miserable, and so my heart wasn't there. I felt numb. There was nothing there. And so I just wanted so bad for people to see that. And so I'm like, if I just crash my car, then only people would see, or if I get hit by a car, or if I like, it's not like I wanted to die a lot of the time. It's more of that I wanted people to see that I almost could have. And so that's the sad part. I knew from very young that nobody cared, nobody appreciated anyone until they were dead. So I knew that from very young, and so I wanted that. I wanted the being so close to death, maybe not dying, because I still had hope that there could be, you know, happiness in the future, but I wanted the care. I wanted the right before, like I wanted the, I don't know, it was a constant battle of, you know, just wanting to be seen, and another battle of not wanting to accept that it existed. I never wanted to accept the fact that I needed help. I've had so many people when I was younger tell me, an ex-boyfriend that I had told me, you need therapy. And I was like, oh. But yeah, people would always tell me, oh, you need help. And I would deny it every time. I'm like, I don't need help. I'm literally fine. I just get sad sometimes. It's not that big of a deal. This is normal. To me, it was so normal. To me, oh my gosh, it was so, because it was everybody that I was around, it was so hard for me to see that people were actually happy and not faking it. So whenever I'd see people on social media, or like hear people talk about getting up at 6 a.m. to go do yoga and Pilates and eating avocado toast, I would like, I felt like I would see straight through them and be like, they're not happy. This is all a facade. This is all fake. It's not, nobody can actually be that happy. Like, people are lying to themselves. They're lying to everybody. Nobody is that happy. So I just couldn't accept the fact that that happiness was a real thing. I thought people were lying. Another thing with not wanting to ask for help or not wanting to get better, there are so many levels to that, because nobody wants to stay depressed, right? People want to get better. People want to feel happy. Like, no one wants to be sad, right? But there's also the side, for me, I'm not saying for everybody, but there's a side of it where, one, maybe you don't see that there is better, because for me, again, I didn't believe that anybody was happy, so I didn't believe that happiness existed. And so I was like, there isn't going to be any better. There's no better. What's the point of saying, oh, I'm going to get better, or I'm going to go get help, when it's not going to do anything for me? I'm always going to stay where I am. And another reason that getting better is scary is because when you're so low, I've used this analogy before, when you're so low and you're so like sad and depressed, and, you know, it limits your chance of being disappointed. It limits your chance of maybe going up and feeling happy again, or feeling, you know, some type of satisfaction or happiness. And then you know that you could always just come back down from like one little thing. It could always just come back down. And that's worse than that feeling of disappointment, and the feeling of staying where you are is so much more peaceful than knowing that, than having the hope it could get better and then it going back. So that's another reason why I didn't want to get better, or I was scared to, because I was living in the comfort of knowing what I'm going to feel and being okay with it, rather than trying and then failing again. And maybe another reason I didn't want to admit that I wanted to get better was because that meant that there was something to get better from. Again, I never liked talking about my feelings. I never liked admitting that I had problems. And so that was very hard for me to admit that something was wrong and I did need help. I needed something. This isn't normal. I felt like it was so normal because I was surrounded by it from middle school, from so young. It was all over social media. This blue whale challenge that made it normal for people to kill themselves. Like that's what I grew up with. And so it was so normal to me. I thought everybody was feeling this way. But I realized that this isn't a life. This isn't normal. This isn't, not everybody's feeling like this. So I shouldn't settle for just being okay with being depressed, right? And so I realized I needed something. I needed help. I've never gone to therapy, but I've watched a lot of, YouTube videos about therapy. I've watched a lot of like self-help stuff. I've read a lot of self-help books, podcasts, and they help a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you don't have the budget to go to therapy, because they're a lot of money, go and watch YouTube. YouTube's free. So when I started wanting to accept help and started wanting to get out of depression and feel happy, I thought the goal was to never feel depressed again and to never feel sad. Do anything you can to avoid feeling sad. And that was so impossible. And so that led me to more disappointments than anything I could have ever done. Because obviously in this world, there isn't a way to like completely ban or like avoid sadness and stuff. Like there isn't a way. That's not, if there was a way, everybody would be doing it. Like you can't completely avoid sadness. And so when I was trying to avoid it and then it would happen, it was so hard for me because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm right back to where I was. It's not like, there is no way out. It was more hope sucking. What's the word? I need to start reading the dictionary for fun because I don't remember any of the words. But yes, disappointment. This way of thinking of avoiding sadness, avoiding pain, it brought me to a lot of self-sabotaging stuff. So for my friends, if I was scared that they were going to leave me or like, just hurt me, even relationships, if I thought that they were going to hurt me, I would leave first. Like I would leave them or I would hurt them first just so that they can't hurt me. It was so sad and it led to such a hard cycle that was so hard to get out of, if I'm even out of it, because there's sometimes you self-sabotage in ways that you can't tell you're self-sabotaging. I also was scared of putting myself out there and like doing certain stuff just because I was scared of getting embarrassed and scared of people talking bad about me. And so I was never really doing any of the things that I loved. It was so scary. And so I was trying to avoid everything. I was trying to control everything. I knew I couldn't control the outcomes of what happened. So I was controlling there to be no possibilities of those outcomes happening. Because I thought that never being able to feel embarrassed, so I was never doing anything, never having friends because that means that they can't hurt me or leave me, never being in a relationship because that means that they don't have the power to, And so I thought that having that much control was saving me from going back into depression, but my depression came back because I was so lonely because I cut myself from all of my friends. I wasn't doing what I loved. I was being awkward on the sidelines. No matter how much control I was trying to have, it never worked. I have the most random story that helped me just learn to let go. I don't know, maybe it won't do the same thing to you. Maybe it's not that powerful to you. But for me, I remember with my grandma, she's super afraid of heights. And so she went on a helicopter for her first time. I don't know if it's her first time. Maybe it is. I don't know. But she was super scared because she hates heights, right? And so she was so scared. She was like grabbing on everything. She was grabbing on like the handles, the door. And then the is it a pilot if it's a helicopter? That's so sad. I gotta know that. I was gonna be a pilot. The person flying the helicopter was like, no, stop. You can't like hold on to that. You can't do that. And so when I heard that story, as simple of a story as it is, maybe it sounds stupid, I don't know, I took that as the more we're trying to hold on and to let go, or what? the more we're trying to hold on to things and try to take control of, like, because she thinks she's doing everything, that she's going to be so much safer by holding the door and by holding on to everything just to, like, I don't know. But she thought that she was making herself feel safe and protecting herself from falling or whatever. She was actually damaging everything more, because if she opened the door, that would have been so bad. I don't know the physics of what would have happened, but the point was letting go. Like, you're thinking that you're saving yourself from holding on to all this stuff, but what you really have to do is just let go and you'll be safe. So that might be a stupid story, I don't know, but I look to that story a lot when I'm thinking about, like, what am I really holding on to? Why am I holding on to this stuff? Why am I trying to control everything when at the end of the day, things are going to happen the way they're going to happen? No matter what I do, I can't control anything. And so it applies in relationships, in school, in anything, because disappointments happen a lot, but learning to let go and let things happen just the way that they're going to happen is so freeing. I don't want to say that I'm, like, out of depression. I also didn't want to make this video because I was scared that I wasn't completely out of it. And so I didn't want to talk about it if it's something that I'm currently dealing with. That's just, I don't know. I didn't want to talk about it. Will it ever go away? I don't know. I think it's always going to be a thought, like, it's going to be engraved in your brain because you've had it. I've had it for so long. I don't know what life is like without it. I don't know how people grew up without it. I don't know. Anyway, I say all that to say, whether it ever goes away, I don't know. But I think it affects you less. I think it starts triggering you less. I think it starts happening less. So there's hope. Sometimes I get so sad and upset because I think it's gone and I think I'm free and I'm clean. And then it comes out and then it comes back, like, at the most random time that you would never expect it. Like, I would come back from, I don't know, doing something fun and having such a good day. And then again, as soon as the door closes, it's just numb again. And it's just, I don't know, it's so sad. But it comes when you least expect it. And so it's never something that you can predict, which makes it so much worse. Because if I only knew today I'm going to wake up, or in 2 weeks, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be sad, then I can prepare for it. But if it's, I don't know. Now I'm just rambling. But point is, there's a video on Facebook. I think Facebook videos are stupid, but this was a good one. J. Cole, he was talking to a stranger, this woman he's never met before, and was talking to her. And she was talking about how she was working 3 jobs. She was leaving one job and riding her bike to the second job. She said that she just lost her kid. It's just such a hard life, right? But she had the most beautiful spirit ever. I'm not saying that she doesn't feel depressed and that she's not, like, mentally struggling. I'm saying that she is keeping her spirit. That's the thing that's the most important thing ever, that no matter what happens, and it's so hard. Clearly it's so hard because I've just spent this whole time talking about how I've lost my spirit and, like, how hard it was to get it back. The goal, that's what I was mistaking it for. The goal was never to not ever feel sad and to not ever, because she can't control if her son passes or not, but she can control her spirit. I would just say my main takeaways, I guess, from my whole experience is to let go. Don't try to control everything. Don't try to avoid, pain and disappointment, or just accept it. Accept things for how they are and how they're going to come, and just let go of trying to have that control. The second thing is, I would say that just to learn to be self-aware, recognize and ask questions of, like, why am I doing the things I'm doing? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Doing what I'm, like, thinking the way I'm thinking? Like, just keep asking the why. I think that's the biggest thing, because that helps you. When you ask why, you can help know what to do. Just pretend I said that in a cool, like, quote that rhymed and made sense. And I think the last thing that I learned and I wish I kept was keep your spirit. There was nothing more sad. I think the thing that made me the most, that made my depression worse, is realizing that I wasn't who I was anymore. I wasn't the life of the party. I wasn't, like, the person that made people laugh anymore. I was the person that was bringing everybody down. And so that's the part that made me more. And so just keeping your spirit, keeping who you are, keeping like, that's the most important part, because no one can take that away from you. No matter what else happens, no matter like, people can take stuff physically from you. People can take my phone. People can kill you. They can take your life. But what they can't take is your spirit. Let's pretend that was a cool quote too. That made sense and rhymed. Anyway, I hope this was interesting and that I didn't just expose myself for no reason. And I don't hope that you relate. I was about to say I hope you guys relate, but I don't. I hope it made sense, first of all, and I hope I didn't sound crazy. I hope that if you do relate, that maybe you feel a little less alone. And I hope, the most thing that I hope is this starts a conversation. And not a conversation of, haha, Celeste is stupid, whatever. But a conversation of talking about how you feel. Like, I hope it makes you know that it's okay to talk about it. Because I never did. And I never felt like it was okay to talk about it. So, end of the day, stay tuned for more. If this episode was boring, I'm so sorry. The rest of them aren't just going to be me talking about myself. The rest of them are going to be topics, some of the topics that actually you guys wanted. I don't want to sound like a YouTuber and say that you guys ask questions. Like, ew. Anyway, see y'all in the next episode.